These tomatoes are so ready to get in the ground. Our days and nights are staying warmer, we're having longer sunshine hours during the day. It's time to start hardening off. But what is hardening off? Why do we do it? And how do we do it? Hardening off is a process where we acclimate our plants to being outdoors. We only have to do this if we've started plants under grow lights or in greenhouses, any place except where we start them right in the ground. Hardening off lets them get used to being outside without dumping them out without any preparation. I have taken plants and put them in the garden without hardening them off, and they've done okay, but it's always a risk. Sometimes by not hardening off your plants, when you put them into the ground, they'll get burned by the sun, shocked by the temperature changes, and they will die. So hardening off is a necessary process when we're trying to get our plants ready to transplant into the garden. I will usually start hardening off my plants about a week and a half before I'm ready to start putting them in the ground. I'll start out by giving them some light in the evenings. I'll set out a card table and put them out and set timers on my phone to give them a couple of hours. The first night I might have them out from 7 o'clock until sunset, depending on what time of year it is that I'm starting to harden off my plants and what time the sun is setting. Then the next night I'll bump it up an hour. I'll put them out from 6 o'clock until sunset. Then the next night do 5 o'clock until sunset. And I will gradually add a couple of hours every day until I have the full 24 hours that they're out. I'll usually do a space in the evening and a space in the morning before I do a complete overnight. And the last part that I have them outside for is that noonday sun. I want them to gradually get used to being outside and getting used to the conditions before they get full sun at the highest point of the day. And if you have some days that are cloudy, you might be able to push the hardening a little bit more because that cloudy day gives them a little bit more time that they can be outside versus when they have that full sun. And if you have some days that are rainy, you can still put your plants out to harden off. It's totally fine. It just depends on what you want to do. Usually, if it's not stormy, I'll put them out if it's just a slight drizzle, but if it's like thunderstorms and windy, I won't put them out because I don't want to risk them getting harmed or blown away. And the table that I use is not water resistant, so I don't want it to be out in harsh storms. Setting the timers on your phone is a great way to remember to put your plants out and bring them back in so you don't accidentally forget them and then fry them. That would be really sad after putting all these months and love into your little tiny seedlings that we're hoping for having so much fruit in the garden this summer from. I don't usually recommend putting plants on the ground while you're hardening off, but today it's going to be in the 70s and the ground is not cold, so it should be okay. One of the main reasons why I don't recommend putting your plants on the ground is if you have toddlers or pets, animals. So, because animals can come over and wreck your stuff very fast. They could also jump up on a table, so do be mindful if you have pets or animals that come into your yard, like rabbits, that might want to take a nibble at your young seedlings. Be mindful of the environment you're putting your seedlings in to harden them off, that they stay protected. And be super careful carrying those trays because it is really easy to have an accident and drop a tray full of seedlings. Ask me how I know. As you are hardening off your seedlings, you're going to want to look at the 10-day forecast. Be on the lookout for any temperatures that look like they're going to frost, and you want to wait until those temperatures have passed and you are sure there is no frosts in the 10-day forecast. Here, our last frost date was April 7th, and we had a frost this week. So just because the frost date calendar says you're not going to get frost does not mean that you are absolutely frost free. I usually recommend waiting at least 2 weeks after your frost date to start planting, sometimes even a month. Here in South Carolina, our summer growing season is so long that if we wait a little while longer, it's not going to hurt anything. We have plenty of time for our summer stuff to grow, even if we wait a little bit. There's no rush. Now, once your plants are hardened off, you can go ahead and bring the whole tray out to get started on it in the garden. These dill have been sitting here for quite a while, and I haven't gotten around to doing it. I should have brought them back inside because there was frost predicted, but the weird thing was my front yard frosted, but my backyard didn't. So these dill ended up being fine. So now that these have been left out and they have been used to the entire 24-hour cycle of the weather, they can go in the ground. So a typical hardening off schedule for me will look something like this. Sunday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Monday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Tuesday, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Wednesday, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Thursday, 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. I might be missing something. 7, 6, 5, 4. Yeah, okay, no, that's right. Sunday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then 3 p.m. all through the night until Monday morning at 10 a.m. Then I will add a little bit each day until they're out there 24 hours. If at any point during the hardening off process you notice that your plants are really struggling, even a little bit struggling, slow it down and take them back inside. You don't want them to get sunburnt or to struggle with the changes from being indoors to outdoors. It's better to take the process slower than trying to speed it up and then losing your plants. If you do skip the hardening process and just plant your plants right in the ground, they can survive. Most of them, they might have a little bit of a shock from being taken from indoors right out to the garden. And one of the ways that you can help them deal with that is to do it when there's going to be a few cloudy days together, a few rainy days. Rainy days and cloudy days are the most ideal time to transplant into your garden. It might not be the most ideal for you to be out in the middle of a thunderstorm planting stuff in the garden, but if it's a light drizzle, those are the favorite days for your plants to get transplanted into the ground. And you also want to make sure that you soak your transplants very well before putting them into the ground so that they're already wet and ready to go. If I can leave you with one last piece of encouragement, don't miss the opportunity to plant something waiting for the most ideal time. I realize that the hardening off schedule that I kind of try to go by isn't going to fit into every schedule. And even with my schedule, I have to kind of adjust it based on when I'm going to be home and when I'm not. So there might be some skips in that. There might be some shorter times and some longer times. So don't give trying to plant up because you don't have the ideal conditions. If your choices are plant nothing or plant under less ideal conditions, do that. There's times when I plant stuff out in full sun at noon because that's when the baby's sleeping and that's when I have time. And my plants do fine. So I wanted to give you some encouragement. Don't feel like you can't plant if you don't have those ideal conditions. And if you can't get your plants hardened off, like in a schedule like that, then try to get some cloudy weather, or you can try to shade them for a couple days while they're getting used to being outside. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope that you learned something or that it encouraged you to try something new this year and to get out into the garden and grow some food. I will see you next time. Bye.